Hello, and welcome to Chapter 10 of Business Statistics. So today we're looking at two-sample testing. And so we're going to review a few formulas before we dig into testing. So you want to make sure that you know these formulas in order to begin to do the test. Now, the first one is the variance of distributions of the mean, where the variance is known. So that formula is going to be equals to sigma squared divided by your n number of items. The second case you want to get to know is to test the mean where the sigma is known. So the unknown variance are assumed to be equal. And that formula is where z equals x1 divided by the square root of sigma squared over n1. So that's going to be similar to the previous formula where you take your x1 and then you divide it by the square root of that variance of distribution of mean. And then you also want to know for proportions where unknown variances are assumed to be unequal, your z is going to be equals to p1 divided by the square root of p times 1 minus p over n1. Now, these formulas seem a little bit more involved, but there is an easier way to calculate these in Excel, so I will go through that in a couple of minutes. Now, the reason we use two-sample test is to compare the results of before or after, or the old results versus new results that we're trying to compare for, say, a product that we want to sell, services, or anything else. We therefore compare the means of independent samples. So in a two-tailed test, there's a good YouTube that you might want to refer to called the two-tailed Z-test by Stephanie Glenn, and that describes it in more detail. Now, to do this in Excel, which we're going to do next, there is a good YouTube on how to use Excel, the t-test two-sample, and that's by RMU. You might want to check that as well, because that will give you more details on how to do that in Excel specifically. Now, in Excel, we could do a t-test with two groups. And so we have group 1 values and group 2 values that are independent from each other. In that case, what we would choose is our data tab, go to data analysis, and then choose the different tests that we want to use depending on what kind of test we are running. So there is a useful YouTube on this as well that runs it through more detail, called How to Run a Two-Sample Z-Test in Excel 2013 by Stephanie Glenn, that you might want to check out as well. In the meantime, I will walk you through on how to do it in Excel right here. Let's take a look. Now, in this case, we are looking at values for an old light bulb that we're comparing to the efficiency of a new light bulb. So we have a series of results here that expand from F1 to F6, B1 to B16, and the new light bulb C1 through C16. Now we are calculating the variances first before we proceed. So basically, you just go to Excel and type in equals var dot s open parentheses, and then you select this whole row, this whole column, and press enter, and that will give you the results for your variance 1. And you do the same thing with variance 2 as well to come up with the values that you need in here. Now, in order to go ahead and do this Z-test for this set of data values that we have here, is we go to the XL Minor Analysis Tool Pack. Now, the way we do this is I usually go in my version of Excel, go into Insert and look for this add-in. I've already added in, so I have it downloaded in my add-ins. If you don't have this option, what you might want to do is go to File, go to the bottom to Options, and go to the option called Add-ins. In that case, there is an Analysis Toolpack here option that you want to press on and press OK. And that will go ahead and insert that add-in toolbox, which in this case for my software, it's called Excel Minor Analysis Toolpack. This is going to give you a box of different tests that you want to run for statistics, depending on the test that's necessary. So in this case, we're going to go all the way down to our z-test 2 sample for mean and try to get the box with the information we need based on this test right here. So we're going to go ahead and fill this out. Now the way we do that is for the variable 1 range, what we're going to choose is the first data set of columns. So I will go back here and select this data set right here and press enter, and that should give me that variable range right there. If it doesn't work for you, you can go ahead and actually plug it in. So in this case, I'm looking at cells B2 colon B16. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with a variable 2 range. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and choose cells C2 all the way through C16. Here it worked out. It went ahead and picked up that variable right there. Now the hypothesis mean difference, we are going to leave it at 0 in this example. So we just press in 0. And then if we know the variance for this ones, which we do, we're going to go ahead and plug in that number. If we don't know, then we would leave it blank. So in this case, our variance, we already know, I've already calculated it, and it's on this cell right here. So I'm going to go ahead and indicate that it's 81.1 for variance 1, and for variance 2 is going to be 78.2. In this case, I did not choose a label, so I'm going to uncheck this box. Our alpha error is already set at 0.05, so I'm going to leave that there, and then I just press OK. And that's going to go ahead and give us a box of information that will have all the results for our 2 sample test mean. So since I've already ran it, this is the information that it gave me. And it's going to give me our mean, our known variances, which we had already calculated, our observations of how many numbers you have. Then it's going to give us our z-value, our p-value for our one-tail test, our z-critical value for the one-tail, as well as the p and z for our two-tail. So what we want to focus in this test for this example is we're looking at a z value for a two-tail test. So we notice that that value is 0.9761, while our z critical value two-tail test is 1.96. So when our p-value is smaller than our z-value, we say that we reject the null hypothesis. And so that would be your answer for this question if it came up on the chapter homework while you're trying to do a z-sample test for means. Now, as I mentioned, there are several YouTube videos on this that are useful that you might want to take a look at when trying to run a z-test or a t-test. The next area on this chapter is looking at t-tests for matching samples. And there is a useful YouTube called How to Do a 2-Sample T-Test Paired 2-Sample for Means in Excel 2013 by Stephanie Glenn. So that will walk you through a similar example where you're going to go ahead, if you're using the same type of data, you're going to go ahead and look for the Excel minor analysis toolbox. And in this case, we are looking for a t-test to sample for means. So again, we're going to be filling out similarly to what we did before, the same kind of information. So variable 1 range, we're going to go back and choose our range right here. So it's going to be 1 through 16. Our variable 2 range is going to be the next column over, just like we did on the last example. So we're going to go ahead and pick this sample right here, and that's going to be our C2 all the way to C16. Now, the hypothesized mean difference in here, we're leaving it at 0. I did not include the label, so I'm going to uncheck that. Our alpha is going to be 0.05, and I'm going to leave that at 0.05. That's the suggested alpha error. And then our output range, I'm going to go ahead and put it into a cell right here, say M5, because I don't want to cover my previous test. I want to go ahead and display it in the next cell over. And then basically I just press OK, and then it's again going to give me the t-test paired for 2 sample means box, and give me all the information that I need, the mean, the variance, observations, as well as the t-statistics, the p-value, and the t-critical value. In this case, again, our p-value ends up being much, much smaller than our t-critical value at 1.76. So we would, again, reject the null hypothesis. If that's not the case, then we would accept the null hypothesis. So hopefully this was useful to you. There are other YouTube videos by Stephanie Glenn on how to run other tests in statistics. Another good one is how to run a t-test to sample assuming equal variances in Excel. So I would suggest watching those as well. I think those would be helpful to you while doing the homework on different tests that you would do for hypothesis testing. Hopefully this was useful, and we'll see you next time with the next chapter. Have a good one.